thought I'd just drop.
Rise up and unite. Woo! Rise up. Rise up and unite.
Football is known as the beautiful game. Football is also an international language, that's known. Football is forever changing. There's formations, 4-4-2, 4-3-3, wing backs, playing out from the back, long ball. It's always evolving. Then something comes along and actually changes the train of thought for the fans, the players, and also the coaches. On Sporting Denver today, we have Thomas Gronnemark calling in to speak to us from Denmark. Thomas, welcome to the show.
Thanks, Richard.
You are the throw-in coach, which is the big game changer I've just mentioned. How did that evolve, Thomas?
Yeah, it started when I was a kid, like in the mid-80s. I was like 9-10 years old. So my big cousins doing a big long throw-in, and when you look up to older cousins, it's almost like, oh, you really look up to them. So as a teenager, I really tried to develop a good throw-in myself, and I had a really good long throw-in. I also played in the highest youth league in Denmark, U19, but I wasn't good enough to be a pro football player. So I had to find another sport. I knew I had a really good throw-in. And I was really fast. I never lost a running duel in football before. So
sure.
I went to athletics, and already the first year I was training in athletics, I was coming to the Danish national team in 100, 200, 400 meters and also relays. So it was pretty successful, and I was on the Danish national team in athletics for 6 years. Also, been several times Danish champion, also one time European champion in the 4x400 relay for club teams in 2000 in Paris. But in 2002, I still had success on the paper, but I was just moving to the western part of Denmark, to a small city, and I was suddenly training alone. So I thought I had to find a new sport. So I went on to the Danish bobsleigh team in 2002, and for 4 years I was on the Danish bobsleigh team, and we were traveling all around the world. Whole Europe, but also the States and Canada. So it was in the middle of that bobsleigh period where I thought, hey, if I can make a good throw-in myself, can't I teach other players to do it? So when I came home from a bobsleigh trip in 2004, I thought, hey, I have to go to the library and find that book about throw-ins, but there was no books at all. So I had to make a throwing course myself, and I used approximately 6 months to develop that. And of course, I could have been starting with a youth team or amateur team, but I had the courage to ask a local Super League team, that's the best league in Denmark. So they said luckily enough yes, and they improved the throw-ins a lot, and we scored a lot of goals after throw-in situations. So since 2004, I've been a professional soccer throw-in coach, and of course in the start was primarily Danish pro teams, but of course it all exploded in July 2018, where Jurgen Klopp from Liverpool FC called me directly. So
I'm thinking athletics, more so than bobsleigh, your train of thought for the throw-in for the game of soccer. During that, did you look at the javelin throwers, or maybe a shot putter, or maybe a hammer thrower? What in your involvement in the athletics side of it? Did you observe that, Thomas?
Yeah, of course, I observed the throws, but I think it was more my general understanding of the physical stuff and movements and so on in athletics. And perhaps you think, okay, bobsleighing, what's that? But first of all, we did a lot of video analysis on the bobsleigh team with starts, and so we did several thousand video analysis every year of our bobsleigh starts. So that was really important. But we were also very innovative because we did a lot of new things in the bobsleighing. So that also helped me be a throwing coach. And then I'll also say that, of course, my own experience from football, but also I've been doing a lot of street basketball and played 1 season in a basketball club. So all these personal experiences made me have the dream about being a throwing coach. So I'll say I used a lot of my personal experience, but also my own skills as a soccer throw-in taker.
I think the perception of the throw-ins in soccer was just pretty much when you're up front, throw it in the box. What was your perception to change that train of thought right down the sidelines of the field?
Yeah, that first of all, what I saw like the first couple of seasons, that I could really improve the players throwing, but that was only like the long throwing in the first couple of years.
Okay, yeah.
But then from 2008, I suddenly saw a soccer match where my team was losing almost all the balls after throwing situations. So, and I was really surprised because I thought it was only in youth teams and amateur teams. But then I looked at all the different pro teams in Europe, so they were really bad. So since 2008, I've been working with my throw-in philosophy, the long, the fast, and the clever throw-ins, and that's like throw-ins all over the pitch. So you're also like a normal throw-in at your own penalty area in the middle of the pitch. So so that philosophy I'm also working with in, for example, Liverpool and
Sure.
Ajax. We're not doing any long throw-ins towards the opponent's goal. It's all about possession, creating chances, and score goals after a pretty normal throw-in.
Before we go into the technical side of it, the grip and the run-up, the approach maybe, or the standing still, you mentioned 3 different types of throw. Could you break those down for us, Thomas,
Yeah.
in terms of, please, yeah.
I really like. If we're starting with the long throw-in, then I'm using approximately 30 different technical parameters. Then I use video analysis. And it's like technical training. You don't have to go into the weight room and push a lot of weights.
Okay.
And most players are improving between 5 and 10 meters, and some up to 15 meters with my training. And some of you might think, okay, the long throw-ins, that's only for the like set piece teams with big physical players. No, of course they can use that. Really impressive. Like, for example, FC Midtjylland, not this season, but the last 4 seasons, they scored 35 goals on long throw-ins. So you can really use it. But most teams, they don't have big, strong players and physical teams, and so, but they still have to train the long throw-in. And the reason why is that the longer throw-in you have, the greater throwing area you have. So if you like, you only have like this throw-in, you only have like this throwing area. But if you have like a 35-meter throw-in, then you have like a gigantic throwing area. So the longer throw-in you have, the greater throwing area you can have. So I'm coaching the long throw-ins also in Ajax and Liverpool FC, mostly in the start. Then we have the fast throw-in, the second part of my throw-in philosophy. Right. And that's both like when the opponents have a throw-in, how can we mark the opponents fast? That's, of course, both something how we pressure, how we mark, but it's also about communication and body language between the players when we have to mark. But it's also a thing like how can we throw the ball fast when we have a throw-in? Some people might think that, okay, then you just have to throw it fast all the time. No, because sometimes it can be the worst thing to do to throw it fast, because if you're throwing the ball down to a pressure zone, it's really bad. So I'm learning the players when to throw fast, when to wait. And then the last part of the fast throw-ins, that's counter-attack throw-ins. You can't be offside in a throw-in. So it can, not every time, but sometimes gives you opportunities. And then the last thing, the clever throw-ins, that's really about how can you create space when you have a throw-in under pressure where the players are marked, and use that space to keep control, keep possession, create chances, and score goals. And I'm working with 3 different zones, defending, middle, attacking, and I have like 40 to 50 different throw-in tools. And it's not like an American playbook, in American football playbook, where you're just like saying we do this. No, it's more like giving the players 10, 12, 15 tools in each zone. So, for example, we're in the middle of the pitch having a throw-in. Perhaps we try to create space near the thrower. But if the opponents are marking us, then we know it's opening 3 or 4 other options up. So it's more like raising the players' throw-in intelligence. And then on top of all the tools, I have special assignments for every player, because some players are fast, some players can really protect the ball, some players have a good first touch. So special assignments for every player. And then on top of that, again, the players are using their own fantasy and creativity and good ideas to create millions of options in theory. So that's what I'm doing in my clubs, and doing that in Liverpool. And Liverpool has really improved their throw-in numbers the last 2 seasons.
So do you work both sides of the game, with and without the ball, in terms of that shape and relative to the zone that you mentioned, Thomas? Do you work both sides of that?
Yeah, I work everything you can imagine around the throwing. I'm working with that, both from the player's technique to throw longer, but also more precise. I'm working with how to decide to do the right throwing. I'm working with how to create space, but also opposite when the opponents have a throwing, because it gives like also an opportunity for you. For example, in this season, 1920 season in Liverpool, we scored approximately, no, not approximately, but precisely 13 goals after throw-in situations, and 3 of these 13 goals were after our opponents had a throw-in. So we are putting on specific pressure to take the ball from the opponent. So it's both something about strategy, but it's also, if the players have a good and high throw-in intelligence, then they also know when it's the right time to pressure, because they've learned it in training. And so yeah, everything you can imagine around throw-ins in a match. So that's what I'm training, and it's all the players on the team. So I'm coaching.
From the stats you've given me in terms of the goals to set piece ratio, would you say that you have proven that the throw-in on the offensive side, Thomas, is a far greater opportunity from, let's say, a corner set piece?
It's a little bit hard for me to say that it's proven that it's better, but I can just say we have normally 40 to 50 throw-ins in a match, in a pro match, and probably more in amateur and youth football, if you're playing 2 times 45 minutes. And I've just proven that you can score a lot of goals after a normal throw-in situation, like in Liverpool. It don't necessarily have to be that long throw-in towards the goal, because a lot of teams are not really set up to the long throw-ins. If it's a middle-sized or small-sized team, it's a really uphill to try to score a lot of goals on the long throw-in. Right. So I think I've proven that. But for me, perhaps of course, 13 goals is really good. But for me, the most important statistic is about possession at throw-ins under pressure, where all the players are marked. In September 19, there was an unattached analysis by a company called Tifo Football. Of course, I have my numbers around Liverpool. Liverpool FC has their own. They have like a gigantic data apartment. But Tifo Football, they're looking at throw-ins under pressure, where all the players are marked in the European leagues. And they found out that in the season before I came to Liverpool had a possession on 45.4% at throw-ins under pressure. Liverpool were number 18 out of 20 in the Premier League, so third last. But in my first season in the club, we raised to 68.4%, so up with 23 percent points. And we went from number 18 in the Premier League to number 1 in the Premier League at throw-ins under pressure. And also to number 2 in Europe, only after one of my other teams, FC Midtjylland from Denmark. So some people are saying, oh, it's only a throw-in. But, it has the same consequence if you're losing the ball after throwing as it has if you're losing the ball at your feet in the middle of the pitch. If you lose it, you're often caught out of balance, and there's a risk of you're getting a goal against you. And on the other hand, if you keep possession, you can keep control of the game. You can create chances, score goals. So throw-ins are a really big part of a soccer match, but it's just not been a part of the football culture that you're coaching the throw-ins. And for me, it's like totally weird and crazy, because it's so. And one thing is that there are like 40 to 60 throw-ins in a match. But when I'm getting the throw-in analysis videos from Liverpool FC, I analyze every match with the throw-ins at Liverpool FC. I get the defending throw-ins, attacking throw-ins. And it's just the situation or seconds just before we get the throw-in, and then the following situation affected by what we're doing at the throw-in. These videos are normally 7.5 to 10 minutes each, so 15 to 20 minutes in a soccer match is affected by the things we're doing at a throw-in. So that's huge. That's huge. But instead of thinking, it's not good that we haven't done anything around throw-ins in football, I'm just happy that I can be the man who will really like digging in and helping coaches all around the world. So but it's massive throw-ins in soccer.
You've certainly changed the game. you did say on some crazy issues, and I'll share a personal thought. When I first was introduced to this a few years back, I thought, what? Just something else coming into the game. I stand rebuked, Thomas. What was it when you first revealed this after your philosophies and bringing it? Who did you speak to first? Was it a friend? Was it a club? Was it a professional player? When you brought that idea, and what was their reaction, mate?
Yeah, first of all, I say the one of the first times I was telling someone about it, it was on my bobsleigh team. I think it was in the middle of that bobsleigh trip,
That's
and
amazing.
I said to them, hey, it could be cool if I was a throwing coach because I'm good at the throw-ins. and they just said to me, hey man, go after it because
Brilliant.
we did a lot of crazy stuff on the bobsleigh team. So for us, it was just like we tried it. We did a lot of cool stuff on the bobsleigh team. So that was like the first thing. So the first 4 years or so as a throwing coach from 2004 to 2008, it was most like the long throw-ins and making players throw longer, and of course there were people who were laughing at it at that time. But sometimes it's also easier to measure how far can you throw, how far can you improve, and how many goals you're scoring after a long throw-in. So, but also when I then had my throw-in philosophy in 2008 with that's throw-ins all over the pitch, a lot of people thought it was just like, oh, it doesn't really matter, it's just a throw-in, and a lot of coaches are or were saying, oh, we just throw it down the line 30 meters up there because it's better to lose the ball 30 meters away than here. So there was a lot of people who really like neglecting my philosophy and so. But then, Jurgen Klopp called me, and the funny thing is, if you're working with a big team winning the Champions League, especially a year after, and they're using your philosophy, your coaching, then suddenly it's the world's most or one of the world's most popular things in football. So that's life, and of course I could be like angry about it. Didn't happen before, but I'm just like enjoying the moment. I try to give everything to people I meet and help them. And it doesn't matter if it's a pro soccer coach or it's an amateur youth coach. So So I'm in a good place at the moment.
Yes. Who was the guy that said go for it when you first came up and said, "Hey, this is what I'm going to do"? Who's the guy? He needs a big wave and a big shout out there, mate.
I think it was just the whole group in the bobsleigh team.
Okay.
We did really many things like team wise. So I think I'll take it as a team effort. So I have to thank them all, and I have done that several times. So
So, can you explain a phone call, an email, the connection with Jurgen when that came through? How did that evolve? How did that first happen, mate?
Yeah, it was actually because I was in the start of July 2018. I was together with my family. We just had like a summer drive out in the country, and we were visiting a chocolate shop. And just before we went in there, I just checked my phone. It had been turned off, so I saw there was a +44 number has been calling. That's the country code from England. And I thought it was just like a guy who was selling me pens or so. So I just listened to the voicemail. And then it was just Jurgen Klopp on the voicemail. And I always had a dream coaching in Premier League, and especially like a big team like Liverpool FC.
Of course.
I tried to call him back, but he didn't answer. And so I went into the chocolate shop with my family. And when I came back to the car, I thought, hey, better take a drive home. So I have perhaps the most important call in my life here. So I was driving the car, the wife sitting beside me, and the kids in the back. And then suddenly the phone rang, and my wife picked the phone up, and she said, "It's Jurgen." I just took the car and then drove directly to the right into a grass field. And I took the phone, and it was Jurgen Klopp. And he said, we had a fantastic season in the 17-18 season. Yep. With a 4th place in the Premier League and a Champions League final, but we were just so bad at the throw-ins. We lost the ball almost every time, and later, the statistics says they were only like number 18 out of 20 in the Premier League on throw-ins under pressure, so he was totally right. But he asked me, would you like to come to a meeting in Melwood, the Liverpool training ground, the week after? I said yes, and the reason why he called me was he had been reading an article about me in the German newspaper Bild. So I went to Melwood the week after in Liverpool, and it should only been like a meeting, and then we could perhaps later speak and so. But Jurgen Klopp was so convinced that I already the day after had the opportunity to coach 21 Premier League players, and that was all the players who weren't injured or at vacation after the World Cup. So, and then like a few days after, I signed a contract with Liverpool FC, and Jurgen Klopp has said it himself. You can see that on the net that at a press conference he said that when I heard about Thomas, I was sure I want to meet him, and when I've been talking to Thomas, I was 100% sure I wanted to sign a contract with him. So, of course, Jurgen Klopp was he was convinced. So, and I'm just happy about that, because it's not only made a fantastic adventure for me in Liverpool FC and winning Champions League and different stuff, but it's also like opened up a really big gate for me to help other coaches and teams all around the world. So I'm just happy for the phone call from Jurgen Klopp.
Sure. Hey, Thomas, I've really got to ask you, what chocolate did you buy from that store that day?
Oh, I can't really remember. I think because in some weird way, I think the phone call there from Jurgen Klopp had the main focus after that. So I think let's just call it chocolate. So
okay.
Yeah.
Lucky chocolate.
Yeah.
What was the first day like then, going out there knowing that, hey, this is what you're going to be doing over a period of time? What was your approach to that, and how did that pan out?
Yeah, it was actually, I'll say, my first visit to Millwood. It was really like relaxed. I felt welcome. I felt at home. I still do every time I visit Millwood or being at training camp with them somewhere in the world. I think it was first from the second visit that I realized how big it was. So, it was really messing up my brain. I don't know if you know the feeling that you're dreaming about something fantastic at night, and then you're waking up, and then you're realizing it was just a dream. Especially the first 2-3 weeks, I was dreaming about that I was a throwing coach in Liverpool FC, and then I woke up, and then I thought, oh, it's only a dream, and then I realized it was real. So it was just like, it was messing up my brain, not in a stressing way or so, but it was just like a crazy period that the first couple of weeks. But I've been in the middle of a dream that's real the last 2 years now. So it's fantastic to work not only with Liverpool but also with my other pro clubs. So
In terms of the program and coaching the throw-in, what are the first stages of that, Thomas? How does it start off working with those players?
Yeah, I say it's depending on what kind of contract I have with the clubs. I have 3 types of contract I normally have. And first of all, sometimes I have a inspirational visit, and that's only one visit with 2 or 3 training days. Then they'll get a little bit of everything. Of course, a little bit, you can't go really deep in just an inspirational visit. Then I have a contract like I have with Ghent from Belgium. That's like 3-4 visits per season, a little bit of throw-in analysis of the matches. And then I have full season contracts. That's the thing I have with Liverpool FC and Ajax. That's 6-7 visits per season. And every time I'm coaching in the club, I'm coaching like 2 or 3 days normally. And when I'm starting like a full season contract, in the start I'm working with making the players long throwing technique better so they can throw longer. Also work with their precision, because it's really important when you want to keep possession. And then I'm also working with the general things around creating space, learning how to create space, do the right movements. That's like the first 2 visits normally. Then when I'm going to visit number 3, then I go more specific into my like 40 to 50 throw-in tools. But then I also have seen a lot of video analysis of the teams, and it means I can really do specific training for the teams. And some people think then when I'm coaching in the clubs that it's like, oh, then you're coaching throw-ins 1.5 hour. No, in the start, every session is perhaps between 30 and 60 minutes, and normally when I'm a little bit, at from the third visit and on, it's typically between 20 and 40 minutes. And sometimes a few times it's only the fullbacks, but most of the times it's all the players I'm coaching, because it's really an advantage if every player know the throwing tools and the mechanisms. So sometimes it can be 2 groups of 9. I have one group 25 minutes, 4 against 4, one thrower or one secret thrower. And then after that, the next group, it can be 5 versus 5 interval game with a narrow pitch. So you have a lot of throw-ins, perhaps with big goals, goalkeepers on it, and then you change the team. It could also be 11 against 11, where we're saying, okay, these 25 minutes here, we're concentrating on the throw-ins. So we are taking like perhaps 15 throw-ins not all in the 3 zones, like 5 each zone. And then we are playing with full match intensity, and so it can be different from the time in the season, but also of course depending on, have they played on a Sunday. I don't do high intensity coaching on a Monday, so I'm try to fit my throwing coaching into the club's playing style. So that's the way it is, talking with the managers and coaches, and so
the program has depth and also flexibility, Thomas. I just, if you don't mind, I'll share a quick story with a friend of ours, Keith Mayer, works at Liverpool and also the author of Gold Dust, the best-selling book. He shared a story real quick. They had the youth players out there with you at the Melwood training ground at Liverpool. And he said he could see that the players were like, yeah, what's all this about? And then you took a throw in, and you virtually sent it like an Exocet missile across the other side of the field, talking on the long throws. And automatically the boys were just like, we're in. Sold, show us more. Just share with that. A great story from Keith. Thanks, Keith, for that.
Yeah.
The distance on the throws, we spoke about it briefly. World record, yourself, changed a little bit. Tell us about that, Thomas.
Yeah, it was actually because, and I'll just say before I ended that my world record was beaten in the fall 2019, just half a year ago or so, but I had it for almost 10 years. But the reason why I want to beat the world record was because I thought in 2008, I've been a throwing coach for 4 years, so why not have the longest throwing in the world? The challenge was that I could throw very far with a normal throwing, like 40, 42 meters. I still can on a good day. But the challenge was that the world record was at that time 48.17 meters, so I couldn't really improve my long throwing with so many meters. So I had to do it another way. So I saw on the television a flip throw-in. It looked easy when I saw it on YouTube and the television, and I tried it. I did totally fail, like it really hurt myself. but I had some help from 3 different gymnast coaches, and then I learned the flip throwing, because I was a non-gymnast, so it was really hard for me. So I had a world record attempt in 2008 in the match between Denmark-Spain, national match with a full national stadium in Denmark. In 2009, I had a world record attempt in the break of the match between Hertha Berlin and Wolfsburg on the Olympic Stadium in Berlin with 40,000 spectators. And then at the end, I beat the world record in 2010 with a throw of 51.33 meters. And that was at a girls' football school in Denmark. So a little more, quiet surroundings. But of course, for me, it was fantastic, because one thing, it was like a really challenge to be the world best, especially at something you can't do, at least with the flip throw-in. And of course, it's been like a gigantic thing for my throwing business, because it's meant a lot for me, for my brand, to say that I'm both the only throwing coach in the world, but also the guy with the longest throwing. So it was fantastic. I got a lot of help from a lot of fantastic people, not only the gymnast coaches, but also people who are helping me with a lot of different stuff. I was also raising money for a fund called JDRF, Juvenile Diabetes Research Foundation, raised like, I can't remember, like $15,000 or so. So for me, it was
brilliant.
It was a great thing. So it has really helped me also as a throwing coach. So yeah.
Is there a special grip to hold the ball? Is it a particular grip, Thomas?
Yeah, and I can say that you can. I also have a video on my YouTube channel where I use like 12, 15 minutes on just a video about the grip, but I can tell it here. I'll try to do without a ball. Of course, I should have been bringing a ball here, but I can, if you show a picture of me instead here, I'm just turning a little bit around. If we can, yeah, okay. Let's see here. Okay, let's imagine I have the ball between my hands. If you're holding the ball too much on the side, you have a bit of control, but you can't really push on the ball. If you have your your hands too close behind the ball, then you can push, but you don't really have control. So what I'm saying normally is that if you're forming like a W behind the ball, don't let your thumbs touch, but a little bit from each other, then you have a really good grip. Of course, it's a little bit different if you have, some people have like gigantic hands and some people have like the smallest hands in the world. So of course you have to feel if it's right for you. But again, make the W, thumbs a little bit apart, because it means that you can both push with your palms, you can push with your release with your fingertips, and then you can also push with your thumbs. And then if you look at it from the side, you really want to have backspin on the ball. And here I'm not talking a normal throw-in on 12 meters in the middle of the pitch. Now I'm talking the long throw-in. But if you're having the ball here, of course, normally it should be behind the head. But if you have the ball here, and then you just, instead of throwing the ball out of your hands, then you're just rolling the ball out of your hands. It means that you have backspin on the ball. And if you have backspin on the ball, you'll get an even more flat throw-in. And if you want to score on a long throw-in, then it's really important that it's long, but it also has to be fast and flat, because the faster and flatter it is, the harder it is to defend, both for the defenders, but also harder for the goalkeeper to take or grab. So that was just But again, you can see like the 12-minute video on my YouTube channel around the grip. So that was just like a small thing. But it can really help people out there.
Is there a particular approach to the throw-in, whether it be standing or running, with the grip? Is there a combination there?
No, not
method?
really.
No, okay.
No, not really. I'll just say, as I mentioned before, if you have like a normal, precise throw-in that most of the time should go to the feet, and you're throwing at a distance at like 5 meters to like 15, 20 meters. Most players don't think too much about the grip. Of course, you have to hold on the ball so it doesn't slip. And so, but it's more like you have to just be comfortable and be training your precision drills with that way of holding the ball. It's only when you are like doing the long throw-in and you want to get the extra 5% out of your throw that you have to think about the grip. So, but of course, you have to hold on the ball. That's really important. So, yeah.
Of course. Tell us about the number of clubs that you work with. You're obviously Liverpool, you've mentioned, Thomas, and Ajax. What other clubs have you worked with?
And this season, I'm working with also not only Liverpool and Ajax, but also Ghent from the Belgium First League, Jupiler League, as it's called. I'm also working with FC Midtjylland in Denmark. I'm also working with Atlanta United in the MLS. I was with them at the training camp in Florida in January.
Sure.
Then I'm also this season working with a second league Belgium club called RUSG, also called Royal Union. So I've been working with them the last 2 seasons, Liverpool the last 2 seasons, Ghent the last 2 seasons. So, and then I have a couple of secret clubs I can't reveal at the moment. So I'll say most of my teams, I'm working with them for several seasons because the coaches want to continue. So yeah, it gives a lot of of course, work experiences, but it also gives a lot of life experience to be coaching and traveling and seeing cities. So I'm really, a lot of people have been saying to me, oh, wouldn't you rather be a full-time throwing coach? And then I'll say, first of all, at the moment, there's no real room for full-time throwing coach. Perhaps there'll be in the future. And then the second thing is that if I was only coaching in the same club all week, of course, that would still be fantastic. but now I got all the traveling too, and so for me it's like an adventure.
Would you kindly share with our followers and supporters, Thomas, growing up as a boy in Denmark?
Yeah. Yeah, growing up in Denmark, it's pretty. We have a lot of social security. It means that if we are sick in Denmark, we can go to the hospital for free. We don't have to think about can we afford to go to the hospital. We have actually we don't have to pay to go to college. Actually, you get paid to get to college because you're normally getting like I can't remember the exact amount, but it's a little bit like I think $600-700 per month to just educate yourself. You get that for free, so that,
Wow.
or even more, I think. So you have a lot of good things in Denmark, but it doesn't come for free because, for example, you have to pay around 50% in taxes. So I know
Right.
you're paying a lot less in the States, but you can say that we are like all society are paying for like the security and the freedom we feel here. I know in the States you have another kind of freedom, and that's just fantastic. So you can say normally, of course, we have children who are poor and into trouble and living not a good life. But I think that really many people in Denmark are feeling secure. So it means that you are secure. So I think I had even though I come from a family where we didn't have so much, I never felt I missed anything.
Right.
So for me that was fine. You can also say if you're coming from a poor country, it also sometimes gives you more like motivation to go up. So there are like pluses and minuses in every society, but I think I was really pleased by being raised in Denmark. But I'm pretty sure it's been fantastic in any other country too. So there are ups and downs, plus and minuses in different kinds of countries. But I love the States. I've been to Lake Placid with the bobsleigh, Washington with the Diabetes Federation there. I've been to just Florida this January. So I really love the States, and I just love like the different. The States are very different with nature and the population and the climate and everything. So even though I had the chance here this season to coach Atlanta United, I just want to coach a lot of clubs in the States. So I have the chance to visit the country. And some people out there might think that, oh, he's only coaching pro clubs. And no, often I'm also coaching amateur clubs and youth clubs. Of course, it's not like cheap to get me, but what often happens is that several clubs are like going together and saying, hey, we want to see that throwing coach from Liverpool FC, so we can educate our coaches. We can bring in the whole town. At least if it's like a smaller town, you can't bring in Denver or so, the whole Denver in one room. But I'm just open-minded for everything. I've been coaching a lot of pro and amateur teams, and my biggest dream is to change football. And so the throw-ins are just as important as the throw-ins from pro teams. Yeah.
Well, you're certainly well into the process, Thomas, of changing football. You have changed it, and it will still be developing with the throw-in approach. Have you thought about you have said that obviously you work with players, pros, and down to the youth. Is there anything coming up in terms of like a coach education design program where you can educate the coaches specifically? Yeah.
Yeah, I'll say that I'm in. Perhaps there'll be more phases in the future, but right now, I'm what I'm calling phase 1, and after that, I have phase 2. Phase 1 right now, I'm focusing on coaching like my pro clubs, and I'm trying to, even though I'm having a chat like this, then I try to keep most of my secrets to myself and my clubs. But I'm also at the moment writing a throw-in book about the long, fast, and clever throw-in. And if it will be published in the fall or 1 year or 2 years, that's all a little bit about strategy for me. But when I've been publishing this book, I'm also going to do online courses, also conferences, education for coaches, and so that's more like phase 2. So back to your question, yeah, I'm going to do coaching education, both like live but also like online, and so I really can't wait to do that, to publish my books and so, because that book will make a big difference for coaches all around the world, because I think the biggest challenge around throw-ins is that the coaches are lacking knowledge. They don't know what to do. Most coaches are either not doing anything about throw-ins or trying some things. But when I'm talking to most coaches, they're saying it's not working. A little bit like with Jurgen Klopp, he said, we tried something, but it didn't work. So my best advice is, if you want to follow this here with the throwing coaching, is to go to my brand new homepage, Gronnemark.com. Sure. You can both read about my throwing coaching, but also read about the future book and courses and everything. So that's my best advice. But I really look forward to inspire coaches from all around the world. And I've been talking I'm having 25 interviews the last 2 weeks, and it's not only from England and Europe and the States. It's also Brazil, Nepal, countries from all around the world. So I just want to help so many people as possible in the future with the throw-ins.
Of course. Have you thought about? I've got to ask you this, like I did about the chocolate, and I'll do about the pastry, my friend. You said we're two crazy people, so I think it'll fit. Have you thought about maybe doing outtakes of any videos that you've done of maybe some mishaps of the flip throw, or just somebody's completely terrible and just doesn't get it with the run up and just the mechanics of it?
Yeah, I actually have on my YouTube channel. I actually had a throw-in world record attempt that was totally failed, and the quality was really bad in the video, but you can still see it. But 14 days before I set the world record, I was in top shape. I had a month earlier been throwing 48.6. It was really close to the current world record, because it was newly set by an Englishman with 49.78 at that time. And then I was just about, it was actually the same place as I set the world record at this girls' football school. They had several schools this summer there. And it was 5 o'clock in the afternoon. I had to beat the world record, or at least try to do it. And I had done my warm-up and everything. And then suddenly, 5 minutes before I had to do the world record attempt, suddenly there was a gigantic cloud coming. It was just I don't know, 10 kilometers long or so, and it was just totally black. And then just in 1 minute, it was just raining like the worst storm, and really rain over everything. And there were these 200 girls standing there and watching, and I just thought, okay, man, you don't care about that rain, you're just going after it. And then I just took a full run in, and then I just gave 100% on the ball. Yeah. And then, of course, there was so much rain that I couldn't even dry. Yes, of course I dried the ball, but when in my running, it was just totally wet. So when I jumped down on the ball, my hand slipped, and it just went forward, and I could have easily been breaking my neck or so. That's really dangerous. So after that, I stopped everything and just said stop for today. And luckily enough, I beat 14 days after that. So of course I had my experiences with doing throw-ins bad. And then I'll say in general, if you are trying to be better at the throw-ins, of course you're doing bad sometimes. Also sometimes when you are looking at Liverpool FC, that we're not doing it perfect. Sometimes we're also losing the ball to the opponent. But I can just say that you just have to work on it. And in Liverpool, we are normally in a match between 20, 30, 40% better at throw-ins under pressure than our opponents. So again, you know it yourself that to be good, you have to do a lot of mistakes. And you also have to accept that mistakes is a part of your life.
Of course.
That doesn't mean that you just have to say, oh, of course you have to do better every time. But I think that's a part of throw-ins too, that we are making mistakes. But I'm always saying to the players, of course also to the coaches, but the players especially, don't be afraid of making a mistake, because it's not about being perfect. If you can go from taking 3 out of 10 good throw-ins to take 7 or 8 out of 10 good throw-ins, that's perfect. So don't care about the mistake you made there. Try it again. Perhaps you do a mistake again, or perhaps you do it really good 3 times. So it's just for me, it's just doing the repetitions. Try to do it, every week, the throwing coaching. You don't have to use 3 hours every week, but every soccer coach can easily fit in like 10, 15, 20 minutes. And some might think that, oh, then in this time or 30 minutes we can only do throwing coaching. No, a lot of my exercise and drills, the 2-3 days I'm in the clubs, it's like really soccer relevant, because of course if we are playing like 5 versus 5 on a narrow pitch with throw-ins, a lot of throw-ins, we're doing a lot of throw-ins and focus on the throwing tools, but we are also doing passing with the feet. We're also doing like try to score a goal. We also train like the goalkeeper's reactions, and so of course there are a few specific things where it's really throwing specific, but most of my drills, they're like I put in a lot of other soccer relevant stuff into it, so you can also easily do that as a normal amateur or youth coach.
Yeah, I tried the flip throw once, Thomas, a few years ago, and just to leave a visual with you, mate, I should have had a paramedic on standby, because I ended up looking like a crushed soda tin. No, it wasn't. It wasn't for me. So I think just the stand up was my cup of tea, Thomas. Yeah.
And it's really important for me to say that if you're not a gymnast,
right,
if you're not a really good gymnast, or you're really good at the flip without the ball, don't ever try it, because of course it's funny sometimes if you land on your back or on your ass or something like that, and you can have a laugh. But to be honest, you can easily also just land on your head or tear apart your shoulder. So don't do it. Only do it if you're like really good at a really good gymnast, or have like gymnast coach beside you, because it looks fun, but it could also like really be really dangerous.
Yeah, Thomas, what's next on the agenda when the pandemic eases off and we're able to travel again? What's next for you, Thomas?
I don't really know, because every summer I'm like free agent, so I have to normally do new contracts. So perhaps I'm in Liverpool, perhaps I'm in another club somewhere. I await that I'll be in several clubs next season, but if I'm in 4 clubs or 12 clubs, I don't know. So normally I'll say that I'll do these contracts here in June, July, most of the contract. Of course, people also, I did my contract with Atlanta United in like December or early January, so I can also do it in the season. So let's see what kind of teams I'm coaching next season. And then there are also national teams. There are also some national teams who have been approaching me, and I haven't really coached a national team before. So that would also be like a great challenge and experience to do that. So one of my biggest dreams is to coach a national team at the World Cups. That'd be totally cool. But I'll just look forward to like coaching teams, publishing my book, and in the future. And let's see what I tried just to take what life brings me. Let's see what it brings.
So national team, Denmark, the next World Cup. Get me some tickets, mate. Could you do that for me?
Let's see.
We'll go, and then you can encourage me not to do the flip throw, mate. Yeah. Hey, Thomas, thank you so much for your time. I can't let you go without doing our quick fire 5 questions. So I've got a few people that have sent in some questions, and a few from some of our back staff that I was open with on 2 fronts, male and female. What teams do you support, Thomas?
I'm not a gigantic gigantic fan of any team, but if I had to choose a team before I really break through as a throwing coach, it would be Liverpool, because I was at Anfield in 2012 with my son. So, but I'm not the kind of guy who's saying, okay, I can only coach Liverpool because I like the. So I could also in the future coach rivals from Liverpool, not just in the same season, but I always loved Liverpool. So it's a perfect fit for me the last 2 seasons.
Is there a female team out there in the beautiful game that you look at? And
no, not especially, but I'll just say I have been coaching some female amateur teams in Denmark, and I love to coach women, because one thing is that I find women really passionate about soccer. They're really like concentrating and focusing and really like giving everything. So I love to coach women. And then I'll also say, even though it's important with throw-ins for men in the men's game, it's even more important in the women's game, because by nature women can't throw so far. So it means that they have like much more pressure on the throw-in.
Right.
So it's even more important for women. It's totally important for men, but even more important for women. So I also hope to coach like a women's team in the future, also pro teams and so. But I'll just inspire every team. So it doesn't matter for me if it's a women's soccer coach who buys my book or so. I think throw-ins are at least as important at the women's game too.
So your favourite team is the whole game, pretty much, yeah.
Yeah.
That's a
You can
good
say
one.
that.
Hey, any players that you've admired, whether growing up or you know, throughout your time working in the game, and any players that stand out for you?
I'll just say, as a kid, I really respected a guy like Michael Laudrup. I don't know if you can remember him. So
of
playing
course.
for Barcelona,
Legend.
Madrid, and so. And for me, it was like, of course, there've been a lot of good players also right now, like with Messi, Ronaldo, and so. But I really think when Michael Laudrup was playing, it was almost like art. He was not the fastest. He was not scoring like 30 goals per season, but the movement he had, his passes with the outer foot or so lopping over the defense and everything. For me, he was just like, I'll compare him a little bit like with Johan Cruyff or players like that who were
Yeah.
just like, when you looked at it, it was just beautiful. So I think that was my really big players I admire. Then if I have to take some of my own players, I'll say that both Robo, Andy Robertson, and Trent Alexander-Arnold from Liverpool, the two fullbacks, they really improved their throw-ins. So when I'm seeing them, of course they're not perfect like everyone else, but they're just like fantastic at throwing. So I'm just really enjoying to see them. And of course, I know it's subjective because I'm coaching them myself, but I just have to say they're just fantastic. So yeah.
You've travelled extensively. Difficult one, but particular country that you've thoroughly enjoyed for a particular reason.
Oh yeah, I'll say that. What should I name? Okay, I'll perhaps be a little bit unpopular here. I love the States, a lot of fantastic cities in the state, Barcelona in Europe, things like that. If I have to choose one city, I coach an individual player in Vancouver in week 7 in 2018. And I'll say a city like Vancouver, it was just like fantastic. It had everything, the mountains, the nature. It's still a big city. It's just like, so it was just like, that's one of my dreams to come there. But there's a lot of places in the state I haven't seen, only in television. Every time I see like a movie from the States or like, I just want to like visit the mountains where you at, near the mountains. And
You're welcome.
yeah, so I'm a guy who just loves almost everything. So when I'm just visiting a city, perhaps it's boring, but if it's the first time I can just see 100 things, that's totally exciting. So I just love to travel. So bring me anywhere in the world, then I'll be happy. So
in a short sentence, briefly explain. You educated me on Denmark. Briefly explain your home country, Denmark. Just briefly explain the scenery.
The scenery is not especially beautiful, at least when you're not. If you're talking about mountains, we haven't really got any mountains. The highest point in Denmark is approximately 172 meters. That's like 500 feet or so over sea level. So that's really don't have any mountains. We have a really beautiful. We have a lot of coast in Denmark. So
Yeah.
I think one of the most beautiful places is the western coast of Denmark. It's really, there's a lot of Europeans who are coming there because it's really special, pretty high waves and so.
Sure.
So it's it's a small, in some ways beautiful country where people are feeling safe. So I could absolutely recommend the trip to Denmark. Also, I'm not living in Copenhagen, but we have a lot of beautiful buildings in Copenhagen. It also lies in the eastern part of Denmark, out to the sea. So
Yeah.
I can really recommend that. But if you're like an American who haven't been visiting Europe, I'll just say that Europe are just as different as the states in
Yes.
in USA, because it's so different. Go to Italy, then it's totally different from the UK, England. You're going to Poland. You're going to, so it's just I just recommend to come over and visit and try to visit the different countries here. So yeah,
And it's just a throwing away. Oh,
yeah,
sorry.
that's totally right. Yeah, and no worries, no worries.
You can get me back. Last question for you, Thomas. Danish pastry, renowned throughout the world. What's your favourite pastry delicacy? What would you have with it? I've got to know, and I'm sure our supporters do.
Oh yeah,
Thomas.
yeah.
Favourite?
Actually, I think that the Danish pastry is really well known in other countries, but I think a lot of Danish people are saying that's not the best. We have like, and I know it's a little bit special here. We have like, and now I'm just going to translate it directly because I don't think you have it in other countries. It's like called student's bread. It's like directly translated. It's just like a bottom with like baked bread. Then on top you have, they're using normally a lot of different cakes, and then they're mixing the different cakes and putting
Okay.
in chocolate and so, and then you have like a brown layer, and then you're putting that on the top, and then you have some things on top too, like frostings and so. And for me, that's just really the best thing. And a lot of Danish people love that. But if you're coming as a tourist, of course you want to. You eat the traditional Danish pastry.
Okay.
So, but we have I think I've traveled to like 30 different countries in the world, and I think we absolutely have some of the best cakes in the world. So I can recommend that when you're in Denmark, eat at least like 10 or 20 cakes at your visit. So
What, at the same time?
No. You can take it over 2 days. Yeah. So
Well, I'll get over the next time I'm in the UK. I'll drop over to and come and see you, mate, and you can educate. You could do me a guided tour, because on this show, Thomas, first and foremost, thank you so much for spending time with Sporting Denver. I know everybody's been educated on the throw-in, the game, culture, travel, and you've left us with an education on cuisine, my friend.
yeah, thanks.
Would you like to leave everyone? I'll bid everybody goodbye now. Would you like to leave everyone out there with a message from yourself via Sporting Denver? That'd be appreciated, Thomas.
Yeah, I'll just say that the throw-ins are more important than you think. Remember, again, 40 to 60 throw-ins. Don't think that your players can just do throw-ins. You have to put on time in your training to make the improvement. So do throwing coaching once or twice per week. And you only have to use like 10, 15, 20 minutes. If you want some inspiration, then go to my YouTube channel. Just search Thomas Gronnemark. You can find me on social media. And then I also recommend to go to my new webpage, thomasgronnemark.com, where you can read about my throwing coaching, but also my future books and courses. So again, thanks for for inviting me here today. It was really a pleasure talking to you. So I just wish you everyone a fantastic day, and I hope that you'll all stay safe. So bye-bye.